All right. So can you tell me what happened yesterday? What you were doing, where you were, and what happened?
Well, I was in the neighborhood near Whistler and Roselle, and I was working in the neighborhood, and I heard some loud screams from the house next door, and the owner of the house, a lady, walked out screaming. She was yelling, screaming, but in front of her was a short, stocky, tattooed guy who appeared to be on drugs and pulling up his pants. He had no shirt, no shoes. He was filthy, dirty, and she was just screaming, following him. He was walking fast out the door, down the driveway, out into the street, and she was, walking maybe 4 or 5 steps behind him, and with the loudest screams I've ever heard. And her son actually came out. He's probably, I think, 5 or 6 years old, behind her. So I saw that situation. I know her. She's home alone with the kid, and her husband's at work. So it just kind of made me think about if I was in that situation. I mean, if that was my wife and my kid, what would I do? So I just walked that direction, and she actually asked me. She was asking me for help. She knew me. She's one of my customers, and so she wanted me to start recording and taking pictures of the guy because he was going to get away. He was heading for the house across the street over the fence. He wanted to make an escape through backyards, and he ended up hopping over, and I followed him. Hopped fences, through a couple of houses, backyards, and ended up on the other end, adjacent street. And I came kind of face to face with him, and that's where the video started. And then he obviously was not wanting me to be near him, so I wasn't wanting to be near him either. So I just kept my distance and followed him. More houses, jumping backyard fences, and he eventually was, I guess, so tired he kind of was standing on a fence and fell into some bushes and maybe cut himself or something. And I ran around a couple blocks or around the other street to catch up with him because he was cutting through, and I didn't really want to go through other people's backyards, dogs and whatnot. So I caught up to him, and then he ended up getting on top of a roof, where he was there for probably 15-20 minutes. And at that time I was on the phone with the operator with 911, and they were just telling me to make sure that he doesn't do anything crazy, but also for my own protection, not to get near him or anything. So we were just a group of neighbors in the area. We were all just telling him to just chill, just sit down, because he's pacing back and forth on the roof looking for a way to get out. And eventually it took a while for anything to happen. The cops didn't come right then, so he got anxious, and he actually jumped off the roof, probably from the pitch at 15 feet directly onto a fence. And I think he was on some sort of drugs, because he just kept going. I mean, I heard it too, and it sounded pretty gnarly, but he kept going. So I followed him through a couple more backyards, and eventually to where he was so exhausted, and there was a dog apparently that was giving him some trouble. The cops finally got there, and I just showed them where he was, behind the fence, lying down on the concrete, and that was it.
And what did your customer say? She sounded like she's pretty grateful.
Well, she said I was a hero, but I was just doing what anybody else would do, pretty much. So
I don't know about that.